What's up, people of the internet and the people of television, because I totally forgot we're on News 12 as well. Welcome to DraftKings is the Sweat. I'm Emerson Lotzia, and for the next 90 minutes, 60 minutes on News 12, we'll go game by game through today's 13-game NFL main slate, hooking you up with all the sports betting and fantasy advice your little heart desires. And a friendly reminder, hit us with those questions on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Please, we need this. A lot of you watching are crushing your season-long playoffs right now. We have the analysts here to help you advance and make money so you can turn around and spend it all on your significant others this holiday season. It's amazing, isn't it? Our first panel this morning consists of DraftKings contributors Reed Fowler and Jeff Ulrich. You guys have been shopping nonstop, but go ahead, let's gossip about these 1 o'clock games. Patriots and Bengals with some juicy drama on top of what shouldn't be a close game. New England is a 10-point favorite on the road. Do you think the Patriots cover, Reed?
I do, and that delivery, Emerson Lotzia, was fantastic. I love that cadence.
Hey, I can talk trash about shopping this holiday season because my wife doesn't watch this show.
Look, Cincinnati, when you just go across the board, you just don't think that, especially Bill Belichick in a get-right spot, is going to let this get even close to team. The Patriots need to really get that confidence building, so give me the Patriots at giving 10.
Who do you like, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Cincinnati's played a little bit better. Their defense has played better the last few games, but at the same time, the New England defense has just been so dominant against weak teams, especially early in the year. I think you see sort of a game that harkens back to those efforts. I got New England to cover here pretty easily, probably.
All right, total for that one, 41.5. These two offenses have enough to actually see the overhit, Jeff?
Again, I just don't really trust Cincinnati enough to be able to put up points against the Patriots defense. They were so dominant early in the season against teams like Cincinnati with weaker offenses that I don't know how you can take the over here. You're probably going to need the Patriots offense to score 30 points. That hasn't exactly been a given, especially with the issues that side of the ball has had for New England. So I do like the Patriots to cover, but I'd still take the under here. I just feel like you're banking on a huge rebound or Cincinnati doing something that not many teams in their position have been able to do.
Fowler.
Yeah, this one's interesting. I actually see the Patriots potentially being able to put up 30-plus points because they're going to have their number ones out there for the long haul, even if they're up large. But when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, how do you beat them? You beat them on the ground. I don't really trust Sonny Michel, so there's a lot of James White. That's the thing, right? The Patriots are going to win a lot of this on defense, holding the Bengals potentially to a single digit. So I got the under as well.
All right, Tom Brady has been less than stellar recently. All of you guys know that. But who thinks this could be a get-right game for the Patriots quarterback at $6,000? Maybe you do, Reed?
No, the upside for him, especially on this slate, is going to be tough. If you're paying up, I mean, if you want someone around his range, Ryan Fitzpatrick at 6,200, he has the rush ability, although he doesn't really do it in back-to-back games. If you're going to be up there, I mean, again, get Watson or guys like Kyler Murray down low in terms of GPPs, but just still upside with Brady.
Bounce back for Brady, Jeff?
I mean, define bounce back, like 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sure, it's not going to help you in fantasy, though. I mean, look, there's just so many other better options to go to around this range in DFS this week. I mean, you can just pay up to Jared Goff in a game that's probably going to shoot out. Dak Prescott isn't even that much more expensive to get to. Kyler Murray is cheaper and definitely brings the rushing upside, which Brady obviously doesn't. Sure, he'll probably play solid, but I don't think it's going to be good enough for me to roster.
Okay. Well, up next, guys, Texans and Titans for first place in the AFC South. Titans favored by 3 at home. You like them to cover, Jeff?
Yeah, this game is really interesting. I mean, going against Deshaun Watson as an underdog hasn't really worked out for most people in the past, but Houston has shown some real cracks lately, and like getting blown out by Denver at home, it just puts a bad taste in my mouth. I just like the way that Tennessee is rolling right now. Derrick Henry obviously seems fine. The Texans' rush defense has been a real issue for them over the past month or so. I think that's going to rear its head. I don't think they're going to be able to stop Derrick Henry. And really, Ryan Tannehill is like the GOAT basically right now. So I think just with the way he's playing, I'm just going to take Tennessee to keep rolling here. I just do not believe in Houston. They're not a team I like betting on. I don't like them here either. I'll take Tennessee.
Ryan Tannehill is the GOAT right now, Reed.
Oh, what's the over-under and how much Ryan Tannehill is going to be wanted in Jacksonville by you two jabronis? I mean, look, Tannehill's going to be great. Like, he is. He's fantastic. He's leading the league in passer rating. He's been fantastic. And look, this team, this spread should be higher, right? The way Tennessee is playing and the way Houston looked last week. But these division games are always strong. Having said that, Tennessee, a stronger game at home. Derrick Henry and Tannehill, all these guys are going to be in great spots. I'm with Jeff here, but I suspect Jeff's going to want Tannehill in Jacksonville.
I mean, look, Tannehill's like a mobile Nick Foles.
There we go.
Yeah. Hey, sign me up right now, babe. Over under 51. Fowler, a lot of points are expected.
Yeah, this is the highest game on the slate, which is weird to say at Tennessee and Houston. But look, Denver put up a ton of points on Houston. Houston is not getting to the quarterback. They're 27th in adjusted sack rate. Not the same team, not the same defense. I think this goes over.
Jeff.
I think you'll probably see this go over. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Tennessee's going to be able to run the ball, like I said. They put up 28, 30 points. Deshaun Watson in a comeback role is exactly what you want in a situation like that. He's probably going to be able to throw for a couple touchdowns too. So, yeah, I mean, it's a big total. It's not exactly my favorite bet, but I would definitely lean over here too.
All right, A.J. Brown has been boom or bust. 36 DK fantasy points last week against Oakland. 7.5, though, the previous game versus Indy. Is he worth rostering at 6K today, Jeff?
I think the price for A.J. Brown has gotten to the point where you probably don't need to roster him. There's just other options out there with similar upside. Like Mike Williams, a very similar player. He's just completely boom or bust. Tons of air yards, big yards per reception, but he's only 4,600 this week, right? A.J. Brown, it's not the talent. It's not even the matchup. I think the matchup's fine against the secondary, like an older secondary that's banged up, too, with some players missing. It's just, he's a complete boom or bust. Tennessee does not throw the ball. They're one of the lowest throwing volume offenses in the league. A.J. Brown might only get 5 targets. If he doesn't catch that one deep ball, you're in big trouble here at 6K. I just think he's too expensive now.
Too expensive, Reed?
Yeah, we saw that last week with Oakland, is those big plays. If A.J. Brown doesn't catch those, and that's why he has that extreme variance, then that 6K that you need to spend up on him, plus his ownership is going to be through the roof in this game, especially with what Houston did or did not do, failed to do against Denver. You look at that and you look at other players like DJ Moore, even guys going down lower like an Amendola, and if you want that safe floor of those targets, you just don't know at that price tag along with the ownership. I really like DJ Moore in that same price range. I'd rather go him over a guy like A.J. Brown.
All right, Reed, let's go Bears at Packers here in a divisional matchup. 200th meeting all time between these two teams. Packers 4-point favorites. Can they cover against the Bears team that, don't look now, or do, has won 3 in a row?
Yeah, Trubisky's been playing well. Jeff's boy Trubisky has actually looked like a quarterback that belongs.
Everyone is Jeff's boy.
It is in the NFL.
All the bad players are my boys.
Exactly. Thank you. Even Tevin Coleman, who doesn't have a starting job anymore. Look, Green Bay is good. 4-3 ATS. They play. They're one of the hardest teams to figure out, right? 10-3. They lose these bad games. They keep it close against Washington. But I still think in this division against this team, Rodgers is throwing 8 touchdowns to 1 interception in their last 4 meetings. I know the defense is getting stronger. I know it's going to be tough to trust a guy like Aaron Rodgers in season long. But in this matchup, I really think Green Bay they have to win this game because of where they want to sit in their division. So give me the Packers.
Yeah, Jeff, Green Bay's going to be motivated. Bears knocked them out of the playoffs last year, out of playoff contention, rather. Now Green Bay can return the favor today.
Yeah, so what? What has Green Bay done over the last 4 games? They barely beat Washington. Came down to the last play of the game for them to beat Carolina, who's getting blown out by teams like Washington every week. I mean, this has not been a good stretch for Green Bay. It also got blown out by San Francisco, throw in there. Chicago's rolling here. They're getting Hakeem Hicks back, which I think is a massive story that people aren't really paying attention to. He's their best rush stopper up front. Prince Amukamara's back. The Bears D is at full strength here. Bears D was the best unit in football last year. I think it's a real tough spot for Green Bay. I really like Chicago with 4 points here.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the over-under then, 40.5? Jeff?
40.5, I would go over here. I'm actually surprised that this is so low. Weather seems fine. Green Bay, it's a little cold, but Trubisky's playing well. The Bears' offense has been the unit to target for the under here, and now they're playing well. I definitely think that these two teams can at least put up around 20 points. One of them might even have like a really good day passing and it turns into a blowout. So I think the potential's there for the over. I definitely lean that way.
Which way are you leaning, Fowler?
Yeah, Chicago's hit the under in 5 of the last 7, but look at the last 2 overs, right? That's kind of what we think this game is going to be like. Granted, those were on turf. This one's a little bit different. But I'm with Jeff here. If you look at this game flow and what should happen, it's going to be, and like Allen Robinson in this game as well is in a good spot. And that secondary looks good and looks strong early on. That's actually Jeff's boy that he's playing really good. He's an elite wide receiver. I really like Allen Robinson, and I like the over as well.
David Montgomery coming off a disappointing 7.6 DK point performance, yes, against the Cowboys. Do you think he's in a bounce-back spot against the Packers and worth rostering at 5,500, Fowler?
I do. I really like David Montgomery and some GPPs, like a nice little pivot at his price tag. And if you look at Green Bay, their defense, although that they're at full health and although their secondary has been playing a little bit better, they give up a ton of yards and a ton of production on the ground. That defense just not looking, the rush defense, not looking as good as they were early in the season. And Montgomery's getting those touches. I know Tariq Cohen is there. I know he's getting the targets. But Montgomery's getting those touches and he's getting the snap share that we do like, that we saw in that 2 to 3 week stretch in the middle of the season where he was getting 65+% of the snaps. I really like him for a GPP pivot.
You like him as a GPP pivot as well, Jeff?
I kind of do. I mean, 5,500 is pretty affordable. It's between him and Raheem Mostert for me. I mean, I feel like Mostert probably has a better ceiling just going up against Atlanta. He's just such a more explosive player than David Montgomery, quite frankly. Montgomery's a volume play, but he's in the right situation to get that volume. Green Bay is just not good at stopping the run. They haven't been good at it all year. Reed mentioned the snap count has been really consistent for Montgomery, which you like. He doesn't get involved in the PPR game, which is definitely like a handcuff here. You'll need him to find the end zone to really pay off. But at 5,500, I still think it's a gamble worth taking.
Everyone's favorite Giants hosting the Dolphins. New York, favored by 4. Likely Eli Manning's last home start in a Giants uniform. Who's taking the G-Men, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I like this better at 3, which is what I got in at. But I'm in on the Giants today. I would have liked this better if Devontae Parker and Albert Wilson were going to sit out. But it's going to be super windy in New York today. I think the passing games are going to be hampered. And look, Miami cannot run the ball. Like, they cannot run the ball. So if the passing is going to be hampered, I don't know how they're going to move it. The Giants' D is actually pretty good at stopping the run, too. They played very well against the Philadelphia Eagles last week for 3.5 quarters. I just don't know if Miami has the firepower. I think Eli is going to be able to get a little bit done with Darius Slayton there on the outside against a real weak group of corners. So give me the Giants here to cover, even though I know it's the Giants.
How much faith do you have in the Giants, Fowler?
Come on, Jeff. No Janoris Jenkins. The Miami's got
but that's a good thing. Have you seen Janoris Jenkins tackle lately?
Yeah, no. Well, that was that was a poor tackle. Was that like 4 weeks ago? Look, he was still a good cornerback.
Every week.
That's true. You kind of like Miami before the Steve Buchanan win prediction was going to be high here, but this one's going to be tough. I do like Miami in some spots. I think you like Fitzpatrick, right, in some GPPs if his ownership stays low. But yeah, the Giants at this number, it's kind of nice, right? It's kind of enticing when you look at just that narrative, how Saquon Barkley needs to get back. I know he's not as healthy as he should be, but I do like the Giants as well here at -4.
All right, let's get right to the fantasy side of this game. After a 35-point performance on Monday Night Football against the Eagles, Giants receiver Darius Slayton, still just $4,700. How big of a steal is this, Ulrich?
It's a pretty good steal. I mentioned the wind and stuff. It is going to be a factor. And if the Giants get up in this game, which they could, you could see a similar script the second half where Pat Shurmur just plays ultra conservative and tries to blow the game again for the Giants, which is what happened last week. So Slayton is kind of in that like A.J. Brown territory. The nice thing about Slayton, though, he's really cheap. And again, he's got a really good matchup. I think he's definitely in play this week. I slightly prefer Mike Williams as a boomer bust target, but Slayton's in the same ballpark. Very good GPP pick, in my opinion. Lots of upside.
Reed, what you think?
Yeah, 27% of the air targets over the last month. Target share. He's seeing a ton of air yards in that offense. You get some guys back healthy, right? Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, all these guys. Evan Ingram is still out. The win does play a small factor, but man, his price tag at $4,600 and just the amount of production that he's getting, it's hard to find, especially in receivers, because there's a ton that you can play, right? Amendola's down there, some other guys as well, but in this offense, against a Miami defense that cannot stop anything or anybody, absolutely a steal at $4,600.
Fowler, Facebook questions. Winston or Tannehill? That's what Weston Beard wants to know.
Ooh, Mr. Beard, you got to go Tanny in this one. Tannehill.
Jeff, Barkley, Fournette, or Carson? Zach Buswell. He needs to know.
Just play all 3? Yeah,
I don't really know. I don't know if he's asking for 1, 2, or just your thoughts in general, but let's just say you have to pick one.
I'm going to go with Fournette here. I just feel like Fournette is going to rip off a big game. It's a complete gut call. Carson is probably the safe pick, but I'm going to go with Fournette.
All right, something tells me Fowler is going to have a lot to say about Fournette coming up in this show. Gracias, dudes. We're ripping through more of the 1 o'clock games coming up right after we find out why Jesse Cofield is not here in studio.
I'm Jesse Cofield. As you guys know, DraftKings has been in Miami all weekend long for the Fantasy Football World Championship, and it all comes down to this. Today, in this very room, we'll crown our winner, and in case you forgot, our qualifiers are competing for $10 million in prizes, including $2 million for our winner. So stay tuned to the DraftKings social pages, Twitter and Instagram. Our qualifiers are tinkering with their lineups. Lineups lock at 1 p.m. We'll keep you updated with all the action here in Miami.
It is time to hit the books when we give you guys an inside look at what's going on at DraftKings Sportsbooks around the country. And we've got the usual suspects here to drop some knowledge. Nicole Bover, Del Lago Sportsbook Manager. We have Andy Crone, Sportsbook Supervisor at Wild Rose Resorts in Iowa, and Hal Tendler, Sportsbook Manager at Resorts Atlantic City. Nicole, you're batting leadoff. Get ready. A huge game for the Bills on Sunday Night Football against the Steelers. What interesting action are you seeing coming in on this game?
So this is definitely a huge game for the Bills as they can clinch a playoff spot with a win today. People are definitely taking Bills with the points here, but besides that, this is the lowest total we have posted on our board today at only 37. So fans are taking the under because I think it's going to be a highly defensive game.
Yeah, my wife's from Buffalo. I can't wait to spend an entire week there for Christmas. One more for you, Nicole here. What's the largest bet you've seen at Del Lago?
We're getting more volume today than we're actually getting big wagers, but the biggest one we have seen today is a $2,000 wager on a 3-team parlay to win $4,000.
Okay, excellent. Andy, you're right in the heart of NFC North Country here, buddy. A big rivalry matchup with the Packers and the Bears. Where are you seeing the action come in on that?
Yeah, as a 40-year Bears fan, this is my favorite rivalry.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most of ours is coming in on the Green Bay side. To cover that spread, and actually we've taken a lot of it on the under since that last meeting in September was 10-3 total points. So everybody's taking the under on that one.
Okay, I get it. Andy, who else though is getting a lot of action by you today?
Well, as per usual, we're getting a lot of action on the Vikings since we're so close, but we have taken a lot today on the Patriots actually to cover that 10.5 against Cincinnati.
Okay, a lot of people think that offense can wake up a little bit. Hal, what's the action look like in this Dolphins-Giants game, and how much faith do bettors have in Eli this week?
I'm not getting a lot of action on that game. I don't think they like either team. So
Okay.
Most of the people up here are betting on the Eagles, the money line, minus 295 now. The biggest bet we got was Atlanta Falcons money line plus 390. I took a shot on Atlanta upsetting the Niners tonight, so we'll see.
Okay, any interesting parlays in your neck of the woods?
No, just a lot of different prop bets.
Okay.
No major parlays at this point.
Okay, good stuff. Nicole, Andy, Hal, you guys rock as always. We'll see you three next week. For now, though, it is Francesa Sunday.
Let's go to the Sunday slate. They're in Cincinnati. Should be a walk in the park for the East leaders, but then again, they've lost 3 out of 5. So Pats are going to win. I think that is a foregone conclusion. How much will that one victory, though, fix their problems of late?
None. They'll win, and they'll win by multiples based on how many times the Bengals turn it over, because the Pats, they just can't score. They need their defense to score for them. If they don't score with special teams or defense setting up short fields, they don't score. They really are hurting. They're so bad offensively now, it's scary. They really are. People have finally understood to take away Edelman. And, otherwise, if you take away Edelman and White, don't let those two beat you. They don't have anybody else who can beat you. So it's a problem. Their offense is bad, but they'll win this comfortably. They need a win, but will it help them long term? No. I don't think the Pats are going to the Super Bowl this year.
Team that beat the Pats last time out, the West-leading Chiefs, they did have a little bit of officiating help, but removing that, they've won their last 3.
No, stop. Wait, the Pats have gotten more breaks than any team in history.
I didn't know where we'd go.
All the way down. From the tuck play all the way down. Please, they've gotten 4,000 great breaks. Give me a break.
I mean, the guy, N'Keal Harry, wasn't out of bounds, though.
Listen,
He was in.
No, that was a touchdown. I'm glad
Yeah.
the Pats finally got screwed. They never get screwed. I'm glad they finally got screwed.
All right,
But you know what? The problem was Belichick went after a terrible challenge, and that's why he didn't have a challenge left. And that's his fault. You always have a challenge left. For that reason, you should always have a challenge left.
Preaching. All right, let's look at those Chiefs, though, because they've won their last 3. They're hosting a Broncos club that's won 2 in a row. So would you take 9.5 points here?
I'd be worried about this game. Denver's playing better. Chiefs are coming off a game that they feel good about themselves. Chiefs are coasting now in the division. They know they can't fight and get up the ladder with the wins. They're going to be the 3 seed at best. They know that. They're going to play the first weekend. So there's not a lot of motivation for them these last couple of weeks. They're very careful with the Chiefs. They're going to win their division in the coast, and they don't have anything to play for until the playoffs. So be careful with them right now. They're not going to play that hard.
Not often there's a reason to be excited about the Texans and Titans, but this is the weekend right here. Houston in Tennessee, the Titans hot under Ryan Tannehill. Both teams 8-5. They lead the South. One team's going to the playoffs. The other one likely is not. Who takes this matchup?
I think Tennessee's playing the better ball, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. The biggest surprise in the NFL this year is Tannehill. I mean, he's not playing well. He's playing terrific football. I didn't think he had this in him. He's found a system that works for him very, very well. And right now, they are the better team. Houston is very bad in the secondary. And now with a running back and the pressure that Tennessee will put on them, I think Tennessee's the better team. I think Tennessee wins.
Interesting. That would really be an upset as far as playoff seeding goes. Let's look ahead here, though. Bears at the North leading Packers. Green Bay's 1-2 straight. Chicago has managed to stay in the playoff race, though, with 3 wins in a row. Any upset potential?
No. Bears have been beating bad teams. I don't think, and I'm including the Cowboys in that, because right now the Cowboys are a bad team. They're a bad team with good talent, but they're a bad team. I don't think they'll beat the Packers. The Packers are vulnerable. I'll tell you who's improved is the Redskins. The Redskins played really well against the Packers last week, but the Redskins are playing much better. I think the Packers will win this game by more than 4 points.
Seahawks are a game back in the West. They're also 6-1 on the road so far this year, visiting Carolina. Panthers just terrible. They've lost their last 5 and still dealing with an interim coach, clearly. This one's pretty easy, right?
Yeah, that's pretty easy. You got it right. Those guys are playing for resumes now. A lot of them are going to be gone. They all know it's a back up the truck year in Carolina. So, not a lot of motivation there. I think Seattle, the only thing you don't like about Seattle is having to come across the country. But Seattle needs this game. They're the better team. They make big plays. You got to go with Seattle.
We have more 1 o'clock games to discuss, and this time we've got a couple DraftKings contributors helping out, as we always do. Steve Buchanan, you are one of them. Gary and Thorne, you are the other. Gary, and let's start with you. You're Canadian. Broncos coming off the big win against the Texans. Can they give the Chiefs a run for their money and cover the spread as 10-point dogs?
Well, as a Canadian, I obviously have insight into this game.
Yes, you do.
Taking place in Missouri. I think this will stay relatively close. I feel like that's kind of where the public's leaning, which does make me a little bit fearful. I mean, there's a version of this game where I can just see Drew Lock having his first this guy's a rookie moment in the NFL, and the Chiefs can drop 40 points at any time. But Steve's here. We can talk about the weather, obviously. I think there's a lot of factors that keep this close. And Denver's just been playing well lately. They're 5-1 against the spread their last 6 games. They're 4-1 against the spread their last 5 games on the road. I just think this is a big number, so I'm going to take the Broncos.
Yeah, last week it was like the equipment that was showing up late to the stadium. This week, I'm looking at Twitter. I guess some players aren't even there in the stadium yet because the weather is pretty crummy, Steve.
So this is actually one of those cases where, like, the weather does actually matter.
Yeah.
Like, not all these BS times where people are like, oh, it's going to be, 12-mile-per-hour winds, or it's going to drizzle, and everyone's not going to be able to hold the ball. This is actually a legitimate game where you worry about the weather. Where I stand on this game, though, with the spread here, I do like the Chiefs to cover in this one. I know that Denver just went off against the Houston Texans, absolutely annihilated their secondary. The Kansas City Chiefs secondary has been really solid this year. They're allowing an average of 125 passing of receiving yards, which is right in line with the likes of the Patriots and the 49ers. So I don't like that much at all. You can definitely run against the Kansas City Chiefs, but for me, that's slowing the game down. I think the Chiefs can just pile on the offense in this game here, so I like the Chiefs to cover in this one.
Okay, so because of the weather and everything you just said, it sounds like you would lean under here for 44.5.
Yeah, I definitely would lean in the under on this one. You know, this, like I said, this is a case where you actually have to consider the weather because there's going to be a decent amount of snow falling already on the ground. It has been snowing all morning here, so both teams could be prone to running the ball against each other. And, you know, the Broncos' run defense has been okay so far. The Chiefs is one of the worst in the league here, but I'm just finding a hard time to think that this is going to get over 44.5 points, even if Drew Lock is throwing the ball. Like I mentioned, the Chiefs secondary has been very solid this season. I think he's going to struggle in this game here. I think people are going to be very high on him for what we saw last week, and it was a fantastic performance, but this is not the Houston Texans secondary that they're facing. This is the Chiefs.
Garion.
Yeah, I mean, at first glance, it feels like a low number.
Yeah.
Just for a Chiefs game in general, we're talking about a team that's second in the NFL in points per drive. Even the Broncos, their last 4 games, they've hit the over 3 times. Their offense has been much improved, and their defense has been a little shaky, like Steve was alluding to. But that much snow, it obviously gives me a little bit of hesitation. I might just steer clear. I'd rather just bet the Broncos with the points than take the over, but I'll lean to the under.
All right, well, the Chiefs defense has been weak against opposing ground games. What kind of value you see in Denver's Phillip Lindsay there at 5'6", Garion?
It's a nice price point. It really is. I mean, there's a lot of running backs to like this week. So if Lindsay kind of falls into the price range where you can take advantage, you really should do so. I mean, the Chiefs are one of 3 teams allowing more than 5 yards per opponent carry so far this season. They're the 3rd worst in terms of adjusted line yards per opponent carry. And again, the weather would dictate that likely these teams are going to try to keep the ball on the ground, or they might have to keep the ball on the ground. I think the Broncos will be inclined to give Lindsay upwards of 15 to 20 touches.
Steve, would you roster him?
So the problem is that we've kind of fell for this Lindsay trap before. I mean, ever since he was named the starter over Royce Freeman, he really hasn't had that breakout game that we're kind of waiting for. Now, matchup-wise, this would be the one. But then you look at last week what he did against the Texans, 16 carries for 51 yards. They're not a strong run defense either. So for him to really not have a great game against the Texans when, you know, they were up big, like this should have been a game where he should have gained a ton of yardage in that one. His salary went up $300. I know he's still relatively cheap overall, but at running back, at least for me, I'm paying up. There's so many guys to pay up for. Nick Chubb, Leonard Fournette, Derrick Henry, if you're not worried about the injury concerns, Chris Carson. There's so many names I'd much rather pay up for in much safer matchups where I know the touches are going to be there. I know the carries are going to be there. I'd much rather go in that direction. If you play Lindsay, I totally understand based on the matchup, but man, he's been a disappointment on more than one occasion this season.
All right, Buccaneers and Lions. Tampa is favored by 5.5 on the road. You think they cover here, Steven? Bo Scarborough, by the way, news just coming down, he is out.
Yeah, I like Tampa a lot here. I mean, Detroit just doesn't offer much defensively. They're 29th in sack rate, last in quarterback hit rate. There's just not much to like about the Lions. So that gives Jameis Winston a really clean pocket to work with. He should find a lot of success here against a Lions secondary that has been putrid all season long. And I know Mike Evans is out of this game, but if that means we can actually solidify who the wide receiver 1 is going to be with Chris Godwin, then absolutely. I have no problem taking a Winston-Godwin combo for DFS purposes. I think they have no problem with the Lions here. You know, David Blau's in a good spot against another poor secondary, but I think Tampa does enough so they can cover in this game.
All right, who covers, Garion?
I mean, these are 2 pretty uninspiring teams when it comes to covering.
Yeah.
The Lions have covered once in their past 8 games. The Bucs have covered twice in their past 9 games. But when you do sit down and start to look for positives on either side, they all come up Buccaneers. And actually, Tampa Bay's defense has been quietly respectable the last 3 weeks. They're only allowing 4.4 yards per opponent play. That's the best mark in the NFL. And like Steve said, this Lions defense is so beat up. It was actually a relatively good unit at the start of the season, but it's been decimated by injuries, by trades. There's just not a whole lot left. And they have the lowest interception per drive rate of any defense in football. So if there was ever a day where Jameis Winston wasn't going to throw a pick, today's the day. So it really seems like everything's coming up Bucs.
All right, sounds like you'd want to go with the over then on this one.
Yeah, I mean, tattoo it on my forehead. Bucs over.
Wow.
It's hit 10 of the last 11 times. It's just one of those things that I don't even look at any other stats anymore. It's just like, oh, the Bucs. Yes, I'll take the over.
So we get to tattoo this on your forehead if the under hits.
No, because then it wouldn't be a saying to live by anymore.
All right, well, we're going to tattoo something
it's really
on
the
your
fallacy
body
of the whole
next week.
situation.
It's just too good of a bet to not tattoo something on your body. Steve, what do you like? 45.5 over or under?
This just feels low. Like, I'm surprised that this number is where it is. I mean, maybe it has to do with David Blau, how the Tampa run defense is very strong, but Tampa 10-3 on hitting the over. Detroit 8-5 on the year, 1-1 with Blau under center here. But these are just two really poor secondaries. I think this game is going to stay relatively close. Like, I don't see either side blowing out. I think that's kind of indicative to how the spread is at -5.5 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I just think there's just way too many opportunities for these two teams to score through the air. Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, if you can start doing something. There's a lot of guys you like on both sides of this ball. Danny Amendola, too. He's another one that could be in for a big game here. So I like this total to go over. 45.5 just feels pretty low for a game that involves the Buccaneers, kind of like what Garion alluded to.
Yeah, Steve, you were just praising Chris Godwin and his quarterback, and now Mike Evans is done for the year. So would you roster Chris Godwin, $7,700 here? It sounds like a yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, without Mike Evans on the field, he has a 22.4% target share, of 10.6 ADOT, 25% red zone target share, with Evans off the field. So this should just be a monster game for Chris Godwin here. Detroit has not done well against slot receivers all season long here. I don't see how Godwin doesn't bring back what you're paying for with his salary here. Like, we always worry about Godwin when Evans is in the mix, because who's the ball going to go to on a week-to-week basis? That is not an issue in this game here. So Godwin's one of the guys that I'm locking into every lineup I'm building.
You're locking him in as well because Jameis Winston's going to be looking at him early and often, Garion.
Yeah, and the amazing thing with Godwin, like Steve was alluding to, is he's already been an elite wide receiver, despite the fact he has not had elite level production and volume. I mean, he's someone who is one of 10 wide receivers this season, averaging more than 0.45 fantasy points per route run. And of the other 9 guys who have done that, they all have target rates around like 25, 26, 27%. He's at 19%. You have to think that goes up to that 25% range now that Mike Evans isn't playing. So we're talking about someone who's already one of the most efficient wide receivers in football, now possibly being one of the most voluminous. It's a fantastic situation.
Okay, then, Garion, next up, Seahawks head to Carolina as 6-point favorites. You giving the Panthers any shot at covering this?
There's been some weird line movement with this game, and it does make me a little afraid to take Seattle. But at the same time, Carolina's only covered 2 of their last 7 home games, and their defense is giving up 6.7 yards per opponent play the last 3 weeks. It's the worst mark of any NFC team. It kind of just looks like the Panthers have quit, and I think Seattle goes into Carolina today and wins this game by more than 6 points.
Steve, are you a little hesitant to take Seattle?
This is such a tough game for me to figure out. I've been wrestling with this one pretty much all week. And because Seattle's only 4-5 against the spread when they're favored so far this season. What kind of gets me here to lean Seattle is if they get out to a lead, they will have absolutely no problem running the ball with Chris Carson against, which is arguably one of the worst run defenses in the league. They're right up there with the Chiefs with how bad they are at stopping the run. We know Seattle likes to run the ball too as well. So if this gets to be a couple score lead for the Seattle Seahawks, I think it's pretty much over here. They'll just kill the clock down with Chris Carson, who, by the way, is basically the only running back active in this game. He's not going to get he's not going to get benched if he fumbles the ball or anything like that here. So I'm leaning towards Seattle. I could definitely see why you like Carolina because it's an attractive number for them, but I'm just going to side with Seattle on this one.
Okay, so over or under 49, Steve?
I do think this one does have the potential to go over, though, because, like I mentioned, Chris Carson's in a good spot. Christian McCaffrey, too, as well. If you like the Panthers to be playing from behind, while Seattle hasn't been hurt too bad on the ground, where they give up a lot of points and yardage to opposing running backs is through the air. We know how efficient Christian McCaffrey is with catching out of the backfield. A couple guys I like on Carolina as well, with Moore and Samuel kind of breaking out of that little slump that he's been in. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for scoring to happen here, but I do think Seattle ends up coming up on top.
Garion, which way do you lean on this total?
I'm going to take the over, like Steve. Carolina has hit the over 7 of their last 9 games, and a big reason for that is they're one of the highest-paced teams in the NFL. They're actually second to only Dallas in terms of overall pace, but they lead the NFL in pace in the second half because, as Steve kind of laid out this game script, if they get down early like they have so often lately, they just start running a bunch of plays really fast and hurry up offense in the second half. And they've had some success scoring points. So this feels like even if it gets off to a rocky start, Carolina is like the ultimate backdoor over team. And I think we get there.
All right, let's go to the next one. Steve, Eagles 6.5-point favorites on the road in Washington. They could be looking ahead to their big matchup with Dallas next week. It's kind of like a toilet bowl 2.0 and potential for an Eagles letdown here, and Washington can cover. What do you think?
I like the Eagles a lot more earlier in the week, but as it's progressed, injuries come out. It's really hard to trust the Eagles here. I mean, look, the Redskins have covered in 3 straight games now. Like, granted, 2 of those spreads were by wide margins, 10.5 and 13. So it's not like, they had to do much to cover there. But who is Carson Wentz going to throw to here? If they can somehow stop Zach Ertz, there's really nothing left on this Eagles offense right now. They are just decimated with injuries right now. I mean, they have Greg Ward. I don't even know who they have anymore. I've lost track. Give me a depth chart.
Yeah,
I need to read the depth chart.
Don't worry about that.
It's just getting wild how injured they are right now. So I don't want to take the Redskins. I don't feel great about it, but I mean, it's hard to trust a Philly team who was only 2-5 against the spread when they're favored to begin with at 6.5. So I guess I'm going to have to side with Washington here.
How much do you trust the Eagles, Garion?
None. Not at all. It's very. I've watched them play the last 3 weeks, so it's hard to muster much confidence. Look, Washington's just been competent since Bill Callahan took over. They know exactly who they are. This is a team that has an identity, and they want to finish games by 3:45 Eastern. Good for them. Good for their fans. They're 5-1 against the spread their last 6 games as an underdog. They just keep games close because they limit the amount of possessions that each team has. And while the injuries to the Eagles, I mean, rightfully so, people are focusing on the receiving core and the offensive weapons. Lane Johnson, arguably their best offensive lineman, will not be playing in this game. Washington has the 4th best adjusted sack rate in all of football. They can get to the quarterback. And I think they're going to be really causing problems for Carson Wentz all day long.
Guys, I am on the YouTube right now, and we will take a few of these questions coming in on the YouTube. Steven, Mahomes or Fitzpatrick?
I mean, it's wild to think that you're thinking of these two here. The only reason I would kind of slightly side with Fitzpatrick is just he has the safer matchup here. He doesn't have to do any weather concerns. Mahomes, I know that hand injury, they're saying it's not a big issue here, but Fitzpatrick in a weird, twisted way feels slightly safer here. It's hard to bench Mahomes here, but I'm going to side with Fitzpatrick.
Okay, Garion, Breeze or Winston?
It's always Winston. Always Jameis. I don't care how many of his fingers are broken.
Steve, let's go one more. All right, so it's Ertz, Gurley, and Amendola, that trio, or Christian McCaffrey, Ward, and Ian Thomas. So you got to pick one of those 2 trios for Max White.
I'll just go for the first one there.
All right, sounds good. Garion, don't worry. We'll ask you more questions later. We're not going to leave you out. The rest of the 1 o'clock slate of games will be talked about with Julian Edlow and Retief Fowler right after Adam catches up with Adam.
Another edition of Levitan's Leverage has arrived. We're here, you're here, let's party. Adam Kaufman, Adam Levitan, and you. Levy, Saquon Barkley, his struggling Giants, they're going to host the almost equally unimpressive Dolphins with the running back price at 7,700. Barkley's been held under 100 total yards. That's yards from scrimmage 6 times over his last 8 games. He's only averaging 10 DK points his last 4, but Miami's defense, as we know, is atrocious. So you just playing the matchup here?
I think so. And also, I think that Saquon Barkley has been struggling, but not hurt. And I know some people want to say his ankle has been an issue. I think he's actually been near 100% or as close to 100% as NFL players are at this time of year. But he's tripped. He's dropped some passes. He just hasn't gotten to the open field where he does his damage. Obviously, against the Dolphins, everybody gets into the open field. So I think 7,700 is a really good price.
Zach Ertz, one of 3 tight ends who will cost you at least $6K. Travis Kelce, George Kittle, they're the others. But Ertz in Washington, frankly, Philly's kind of about out of options, right? I mean, that's part of why he's averaging about 22 fantasy points his last 5 outings. See an automatic play?
Yeah, so it's never an automatic play to pay up for tight end when DraftKings drops the floor down to 2,500 on tight ends. But I will say that with Alshon Jeffrey out, with Nelson Aguilar banged up, obviously Deshaun Jackson still out, and just a total mess at wide receiver, that Zach Ertz is functioning as kind of a slot receiver and the no doubt number 1 option for the Eagles. They're going to have trouble running the ball, I think, like they always do. And when Carson Wentz projects for 35 to 40 dropbacks, well, we know that we have a lot of paths to big games for Zach Ertz. So I certainly like him.
Last one. Jarvis Landry's Browns visiting the Cardinals. Receiver 6,700, even with that hip injury that he's dealing with. He's been incredibly reliable. Averages of 6 catches, 80 yards his last 7. Has 5 touchdowns during that time. And Arizona's defense, woeful. Worst in the league. So another kind of pseudo no-brainer for you?
Well, last week I thought Odell Beckham was going to outperform Jarvis Landry. And I think at this point with Odell Beckham, the report coming out about his hernia surgery that he'll likely need after the season and just a lack of chemistry with Baker Mayfield at this point, it's just very clear that Baker prefers throwing to Jarvis Landry, and Jarvis Landry is the better player. So in this spot against Arizona, who allows their opponents to run the most plays per game, we can see a spike in volume coming for Jarvis Landry. And I think we know he'll be efficient in one of the best possible matchups for an opponent. So yeah, I think Jarvis Landry, although he's close in price to Odell Beckham, is still the better play.
OBJ wants out of Cleveland, but I never want out of this segment. Thanks, Levy.
All right, good luck.
DraftKings contributors Julian Edlow and Reed T. Fowler and Greg Ehrenberg. Good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing? Greg, answer.
Not great, because I wasn't in the tees for this segment, and that was a slight. I'm disappointed. I'm a little hurt. But I'll move on.
Don't be disappointed or hurt. It's a pleasant surprise. People are like, oh, okay, Julian, Greg, I'll deal with that. And then, oh my God, Greg's here. That's great.
All right, that's a good twist.
It's okay.
I'll deal with that.
He's struggling right now.
All right, you two in studio, please be quiet. We've got a few more games to bang out here, and you're the ones to do it, all three of you. Jules, Sportsbook expects Vikings and Chargers to play a tight one. Minnesota favored by 1.5 on the road. You likes the Vikes?
So much sharp money coming in on the Chargers here, and I don't get why. They stink at home. They're 2-4 at home. They're even worse, 1-4-1 against the spread at home. They cover at a less than 30% rate at home since 2014. The Chargers stink at home. The Vikings need this game to try and chase down the Packers in the division. I don't think they'll be looking ahead to their big matchup with the Packers at all. The Packers are in a very losable position. I think a lot of us on the shows today have liked the Bears +4, +4.5, and maybe to go to Lambeau and steal that game. So this is a spot where the better team in Minnesota that will have Adam Thielen coming back, it's just a spot where they should get a win against such an inconsistent Chargers team.
Reed, where do you sit on this?
Wait, Julian, do the Chargers suck at home?
They suck at home.
Okay, got it, 10-4, because I agree. They suck at home. Minnesota, they're okay, 2-2 ATS on the road. But Julian's right, man. These guys don't really have a home field advantage. They don't have a home field. They play on a soccer pitch in a soccer stadium. So that kind of scares you a little bit. Yes, the Chargers are inconsistent. They win games that they shouldn't, and they lose games that they shouldn't. So you really can't figure out. I'd rather go with the stronger team, stronger defensive line against a weaker offensive line too. Like Daniel Hunter, and these guys are going to get after Phillip Rivers. We've seen him in these spots not do very well. Give me the Vikings.
Greg, the Chargers suck at home, so what are you going to do here?
Well, here, if you bet $10 against the Chargers in every close game they've played in this season, you will have profited over $1 million.
Whoa.
They do not win. It's math. That's how it works. They do not win any of these close games. Like this game script, we've seen it play out so many times during the Phillip Rivers era. If they're in a close game, they just lose in some horrible way at the end. It's not predictable how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So any game that I think is going to be tight, I'm against the Chargers.
1 second, placing $10 on the Chargers. Okay.
I just don't get where all this smart money is coming from. That
it's called dumb money.
But Minnesota was -3 in this game when it opened, and all the money's coming in on the Chargers. Whatever.
Maybe they just don't believe in the Vikings secondary. Maybe it's just a Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, like Phillip Rivers stack. I have no idea.
Guess.
All right, Fowler, over or under 45.5?
Well, the reason for what I just said, I think it's going to go over. The way you attack this Minnesota defense is through the air. I like Keenan Allen. I like Mike Williams in these spots, maybe as a team total or them winning the game. I don't like as much, but in those matchups, you've seen Xavier Rhodes and these guys not play as well this season as they have in the past. I like the over.
Greg.
Yeah, I like the over also. Not only do I think the Chargers are going to be able to score, but the other thing to consider also is that the Vikings offense is finally getting healthy. So we've got Adam Thielen coming back from injury. That's a big deal. Dalvin Cook has been a little bit banged up the last couple of weeks, and that's going to be less of an issue. So there's a lot of reasons to think this game shoots out.
Jules, anything to add to that?
Not really. I think we all see this game the same way. It should go over, and it'll probably come down to Phillip Rivers with the ball, down 7, and just throws a duck to end the game.
Okay, Greg, would you play, let's see, Adam Thielen, 6,300, first appearance since week 9.
So for me, him coming back from an injury, and even the last time we did see him play, remember, he only played a few snaps, and then he left the game again because he got hurt. So just because there's that risk factor with him coming back from the hamstring injury, we don't know exactly if there's going to be some kind of maybe snap restriction for him. There is always the risk of re-injury. So in his first game back, I'm off him.
Yeah, too much of a risk in your eyes, Julian?
Yeah, especially for what Greg said. The last time he tried to come back and play, he left injured. So it seems like they've given him more time to heal this time, but obviously you don't want to play around with that. And then this is just such a strong slate for receivers, even in that price point, like $6,000 for A.J. Brown's going to be a really popular play. I just don't need to pay the salary there. There's other places I like a lot more.
Reed, you a no-go on Thielen?
Yeah, not even in this game. I like Keenan Allen a lot more in this matchup. Nice. And look at, it's probably on your team. And just in that price range, DJ Moore, man. DJ Moore for like a few $100s at 6,600, I think he is. Play him against Seattle, please.
Okay, Cowboys hosting the Rams, and what's basically a pick'em here, guys. Cowboys +1 dogs at home. Can they right the ship and take down a hot Rams team, Fowler?
No, the Dallas Cowboys suck. No, they're actually pretty good at home. But I look at this game. This is the first time they're home dogs. The Rams are committing to the run. Sean McVay's probably a coach that lies at times, but he's pretty honest, and he has full disclosure in terms of what he does and screwing up in his play calling early in the season. I really like this. This offense is getting healthier. Todd Gurley is getting those touches. That's how this offense operates. Give me the Rams.
All right, Jules, who are you taking?
The Chargers suck on the road. The Cowboys suck in general. I want no part of them. They have lost 6 games outright that they've been favored in this season. You suck. I want the Rams. They're tied for an NFL best 9-4 against the spread. They're 5-1 against the spread on the road. They're in the hunt for a playoff spot, whereas the Cowboys and Eagles just keep losing to see who's going to take that NFC East playoff spot. I really love the Rams in this spot. Probably my favorite play of the week is just the Rams winning this game in Dallas.
Greg, that's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, so I like the Cowboys in this spot. I do think there's a lot of recency bias built in here because if this game was just played like 3 weeks ago, the Cowboys would have been favored probably like 3.5 points in this spot.
And they probably would have lost outright every time as they do as favorites.
They very well may have, except I do think there's a little bit of value in this number because I don't think the Rams are that much better of a team. Jared Goff does have pretty significant home-road splits for his career, so I'm always concerned with him going on the road. And then we have at home, the Cowboys offense has been a juggernaut this year. Prescott's been awesome at home. The Cowboys offense overall is one of the top offense in football. And then at home, they're really difficult to stop. And the Rams defense has struggled at times this year. They've struggled stopping the run. They've struggled stopping the ball through the air. So I think there is a lot of upside for Prescott and the Cowboys offense here.
All right, Jules, how do we feel about the over-under then? 4 to 8.5 in this one.
Yeah, so I think that I would lean to the over here because, like Greg said, the Cowboys offense is better at home. I think that they will be able to put some points on the board. And the Rams, Goff's home road splits, Greg's right about that. It's concerning for his career, but it's been much better on the road this season. We've seen him have some good games on the road this season, which is why the Rams are so good, 5-1 against the spread on the road. So I think they'll be able to air it out, get some points. Gurley should have a decent game on the ground. I think we'll see a high-scoring game here.
Greg, do we see a high-scoring game?
Yeah, shootout. I think basically whenever the Cowboys are at home, there's pretty good potential for a shootout. And then as Julian said, also the Goff and the Rams offense has played a little bit better on the road this year than we've seen from them in the previous couple years. So this could definitely be a really high-scoring game also.
Reed, talk to me about this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are short-siding this and not looking at this is going to be a shootout. We have the Tennessee and Houston game. A lot of people stacking those. This one is the absolute game to stack on both sides of the ball. And if you look at the Rams, they're fantastic. In Dallas, look, they're scoring points even though they suck, like Julian said. They're still scoring points. The Rams are definitely there scoring points. So yeah, give me the over.
To the juiciest game on the slate. Jacksonville on the road in Oakland. It's the Fighting Fowlers against the loose-lip Lotzias. Raiders favored by 6.5 points. It's the last game for the Raiders in the black hole. Are you siding with the Fighting Fowlers, Fowler?
Yes. Absolutely. Talking about narratives, it's against a terrible Jaguars team that just decided to give up over the last month.
Damn right.
They have no healthy players at all. Nick Foles, all of that wasted money. He's going to be out of Jacksonville. And it's the Raiders. It's the last game at the Coliseum. Yes. Yeah, I don't need stats. Cover.
Oh, Jules, what do you think about the future home of Ryan Tannehill beating Oakland today?
Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, it's a Jeff Ulrich joke. You wouldn't get it. You're too serious.
No, that was a really bad joke. Esteemed Jacksonville Jaguars fan Emerson Lotzia, much like the Jacksonville Jaguars, just in the face of pressure, when the going gets tough, they just collapse, light on fire, and give up, crash and burn. Jacksonville is doing nothing to show me that they can win this game. I don't like that it's getting all the way up to 7. Money is piling on an Oakland team that's kind of banged up, not the greatest team. But we do have the narrative of the last game in the black hole here. I think that at like 6.5, I really like Oakland to cover this one, win by a touchdown. Probably push it if it gets to 7.
Jules, I hate how you know me that well, Jules. I really do. Greg,
multiple units.
Go ahead, bud.
So shouldn't the narrative on the Raiders be like the last game for them in the Coliseum? Shouldn't the idea be that they just let down here and just totally blow it? Like, I don't know why there's some thought like, oh, the Raiders, we know how they're going to come through in this spot because it's their last game at home. So
no, this is not the Chargers.
Here's the issue I have, and Julian talked about it. The injuries on the Raiders offense right now, we have Josh Jacobs is playing with a broken shoulder. Tyra Williams has plantar fasciitis. It's been bothering him for the last few weeks. So they're way less than 100%. I do think they should win this game. But still, the idea that they're going to clearly win the game by a touchdown or more when their defense has been so awful this year, to me this game kind of screams that Gardner Minshew leads a backdoor cover late in the game just because the Raiders' defense can't stop the pass at all. They're probably going to be playing prevent defense late. And then also, I'm not sure they're going to really be able to run up the score just because of the injuries they have on offense.
All right, on the fantasy side, need you guys to be quick on this one. Reed, DJ Chark, ruled out for this one. So D.D. Westbrook could become Gardner Minshew's #1 target, right? What do you think about him at $4,200? Book it.
Yeah, I mean, the theory is there, but go somewhere else, like an Amendola at $4,100.
All right, then, Jules.
I mean, on the Jacksonville side, I'll just pay down even cheaper for Chris Conley, who has a better chance to catch a deep ball against this Oakland defense. I think that he's the better value, but if you want to play a chalky Westbrook, go ahead. He's an okay cash play.
Yeah, he's my captain in my showdown, too.
That's not going to work out.
It's going to work out fantastic. Crumbling in the face of pressure. Greg?
Double stack Minshew with D.D. Westbrook and Chris Conley and just save all the money.
Oh, yeah. Adios, my dudes. We'll get to San Fran at Atlanta as well as Cleveland and Arizona right after Nick Eatman updates us on the job security of Jason Garrett in Dallas.
I don't need to tell you this, but Jason Garrett's job is constantly called into question, especially over the course of this, roller coaster of a season. What will it take at this point for him to keep it? We talked about this coming into the year before there were even any wins and losses. What will it take for him to keep his job? Is making the playoffs even enough?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't even think if they got into the playoffs, played like the Vikings or the Seahawks or 49 or whatever, and won that game, and then went to the divisional round and lost, that doesn't do it. Maybe get into the playoffs, winning 2 games, get to the NFC Championship game, and then lose. Maybe then. But you got to remember, it's got to be so significant. It's one thing to say, well, let's give him another year and not fire him. But this is like a whole new contract. I mean, you have to write up a new contract with an extension and all of that. So it's one thing to finish out the year, but it's another thing to just get down in a room with his agent and say, this is the new deal. I don't see that happening unless it's a significant turnaround.
Okay, the sweat rolls on, coming to you live from our Boston-based studios. I wish we could take the weather cam right now, but I guess we can't. A couple Canadians joining the program. We do have DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Gary Thorne here. Couple late games we need to talk about right meow, starting with San Francisco hosting Atlanta, tied for the biggest spread on the board at 10.5. Can Atlanta keep it close, Gary?
So San Francisco's had a really hard time not playing down to bad teams. They've not covered this season against a team with a losing record. They are 0-3-1 ATS. At the same time, Atlanta's just got so many injuries, and their offensive line has been so bad in their last 3 games. Matt Ryan's been sacked 16 times the past 3 weeks, and San Francisco has the best adjusted sack rate in football. I just think they dominate this game. I don't know what Atlanta can do on offense to just overcome this defense.
Jeff, do the 49ers just dominate?
Yeah, I mean, look, San Francisco has some injury concerns too, but I do feel like the setup, Kyle Shanahan going against his old team. Yeah, I mean, there's a narrative. Obviously, I got to go with it, but I agree with Gary, and I just don't think Atlanta's going to be able to do enough. No Calvin Ridley. I really feel like the 49ers are probably just going to be able to dominate on the ground, take this team apart pretty easily, to be honest. I feel like people are getting a little bit scared of this number for no reason. I think San Francisco's going to cover, and I think they're going to blow the Falcons out.
All right, Jeff, over or under 48.5 then?
Oh, yeah. This number is I just think, a little bit too high. Again, you're relying on a team to score against the 49ers, like Atlanta, who has no O-line. We've seen teams like this go against San Francisco, like a team like even the Packers, and just get completely annihilated to the point where they can't even put points up. So a 34-7 kind of game is very viable here. I feel like 48.5, you're relying on Atlanta's offense to get you the over here. I don't like it. Definitely like the under.
Garion?
Yeah, just to back up how Jeff feels, I just don't think Atlanta can pull their weight here. I think they're going to have a lot of negative plays. The offensive line struggles I just talked about. It just seems like San Francisco is going to get out to an early lead and just be content to run the football, which is something they want to do anyway. So you're going to see the clock moving a lot in this game. I think it's going to be over relatively quickly, honestly. So I don't think we get to 48.
Jeff, this one's for you. Niners running backs have just been a riddle, a puzzle, if you will, this season. Raheem Mostert is now their most expensive back at $5,200. Do you like him for that price?
Well, lucky you got on the show the puzzle solver guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to
the
play
amazing ball whacker guy.
Let me throw. I mean, Raheem Mostert. Look, I admit, like, I was a little bit slow to get on the Raheem Mostert train. You know, but let's just forget about Tevin Coleman. Raheem Mostert's my guy now. I mean, this is a player who ran like a 10.15 100-meter dash in college. Dude's fast. Yeah, he deserves to be the number one back. And he's finally convinced. I know I'm going with coach speak here too. And look, from a realistic perspective, there's some risk here. There's still 3 running backs in play in San Francisco. But you got to go with the upside here. This is a terrific matchup. This is a player who's averaged 7.3 yards per carry over his last 4 games. I really feel like he gets 20 touches here. He could absolutely go bananas against a team that could easily fold up the chairs here after the first quarter. So, yeah, I do like Mostert. I think he's a very, very good GPP play. You don't need to put him in cash because, like I said, there's still some touch issues. But, yeah, give me Mostert today.
Step up, ladies and gentlemen. Come see if you can outdrive the golf ball whacker guy. Go ahead, Garion.
Yeah, I think he's a good play. Like Jeff said, I don't know if I can pencil him in for 20 touches. It's probably more like 12 to 15, which is somewhat of a concern. But the nice thing about San Francisco's mystery backfield is that at least the guy who's been the lead back, even though we sometimes don't know who that is, they've always been good. They've always produced. They've got a really good offensive line. They've got a really good running system. Booger McFarland would tell you that they might have the best because of their fullback play. Amazing fullback play.
Yeah.
I think he's a good play. I think this is a situation, again, where the Niners are going to be running the football a lot. And he had 38 snaps to 22 combined for Breda and Coleman last week. So I think they're being honest when Kyle Shanahan says he is the lead back and he's earned it.
Guys, like a minute left till we got to say goodbye to everyone on News 12, so make this one quick. Cleveland on the road in Arizona, the Baker Mayfield revenge game as it's being billed by some because he's facing his former college coach. He benched him at Texas Tech, yada, yada, yada. Browns favored by 3 on the road. Do they cover, Jeff?
I don't think they do. Revenge game. Give me a break.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
I think Kyler Murray bounces back in this game, and I think Arizona might win outright or at least cover. So I'm taking the Cardinals here.
Garion, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Cardinals as the home dog here. Cleveland is 0-4 ATS their past 4 road games. And when Arizona looks decent, it's tended to be at home. So give me the Cardinals.
All right, another quick answer here then. Garion, over under 49.5.
I'm going to go under. I think both these offenses have not been good for most of the season. One of these 2 teams could break out possibly, but both happening in the same game is something I'm not necessarily seeing.
Ulrich?
Yeah, same sentiment. Cleveland doesn't like to play at a high pace, even though Arizona does. I don't trust both offenses to do it, so under for me.
To our friends on News 12 in Long Island, Westchester, New Jersey, and Connecticut, it has been real. Toodaloo, please enjoy your holiday shopping today. But if your wife or husband isn't dragging you out of the house until 1 o'clock, we have 30 minutes to go here on The Sweat. You can watch it on Facebook, on YouTube, on the Twitter pages. It's going to be a really good time, and Julian Hedlow will return. Same time, same place next week, different host. For you. Are you ready for it? Okay. Are we going to roster Baker Mayfield today? 6,400. Again, facing Cliff Kingsbury. He's really mad at him. Jeff?
Oh, we're still on here. That was an interesting little segue.
Well, yeah, we said goodbye. We said goodbye to everyone in New York City. We paused so it can end there. It's television, Jeff. You wouldn't get it.
I know. You know how confused I get. Emerson.
Yes, I'm well aware.
A little different happens. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Look, Baker Mayfield, I admit it's an interesting spot. Quarterbacks against the Cardinals have been absolutely great all year, but there's just too many other options at this price. Dak, Goff. I like going down to Kyler Murray if you're going to target this game. He's so much cheaper and brings way more rushing upside, so I'm out on Baker.
Are you out or in on Baker, Garion?
I was almost out of this segment because much like Jeff, I thought we were done. Glad I stayed, though, because I got takes on Baker Mayfield. Look, I just think this is a situation where his price point is 100% reflective of his matchup and not his production. And that's a dangerous path to start going down. I know Arizona's given up the most DraftKings points per game to quarterbacks, but Baker Mayfield has only scored 20-plus DKFP 3 of his 13 starts this season. There's just so many value quarterbacks that you can either pay down, or if you're paying up, like find the $400 to just put Deshaun Watson in your lineup and feel a lot better and a lot safer about it.
Well, guys, thanks for sticking around for that last question. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to our producer, Matt. Okay, so coming up next, we are going to take a break so you guys can go do whatever it is, because Julian and Steve are going to yell at each other next, right after I look extremely jacked in my KFC jersey talking with Reed T. Fowler. Big game Sunday night. Bills visiting the Steelers. Playoff implications are on the line in this one. This is the Sunday Night Showdown series presented by KFC. Emerson Lotzia, Reed T. Fowler here. Steelers trying to secure their spot in the playoffs with a wild card berth. Reed, the Bills are jockeying for position as well. Who is your Colonel's pick?
Really tough matchup. Good defenses here. I'm going Devin Singletary, running back for the Bills. The Steelers don't give up a ton for opposing running backs, but he's getting the touches. We've seen him get 16 total touches in 5 of the last 6 games. He has the lion's share in that backfield. It's no longer Frank Gore, Devin Singletary.
Give me another man you were putting into your lineup.
Yeah, another Buffalo Bill. Dawson Knox, a tight end. He doesn't get a ton of red zone targets. He only has a couple of touchdowns on this season. But the Steelers, again, a tough defense. They are allowing 7 touchdowns, or they have allowed 7 touchdowns total on the season to opposing tight ends. Again, he's getting a little bit more targets. He's a really talented tight end. It's going to be Dawson Knox.
That'll do it for this latest edition of the Sunday Night Series. KFC's beloved chicken and waffles are back, and now they've got a kick. Enjoy Nashville hot chicken and waffles if you're feeling spicy. Or, Reed, if you're not feeling spicy, how about the classic chicken and waffles? Order online or get them delivered at kfc.com. That looks extremely delicious, and I am very hungry. And I'm going to go to KFC after this show because of that video. Okay, time for me to stop talking. You're welcome, everyone. Steve and Julian exchanging hot takes. I'm here for it. All day, day. Go ahead, Jules.
Thanks, Emerson. So this week, looking at a hot take, it was a little bit tougher for me until I saw the weather video in Kansas City, and I know I'm giving my hot take to Mr. Weatherman, Steve Buchanan. So there's not a more perfect spot for this. The Kansas City DST, $3,500, will score at least 25 DraftKings points on this slate at home against the Denver Broncos in this Steve Buchanan blizzard. They've scored 25 DK points in Denver earlier this season. It was against, obviously, an inferior quarterback play compared to what Drew Lock's been doing lately. But I think they'll be able to replicate something along those lines at home here. You look at Kansas City's defense, not bad. 22 points in their 22 DraftKings points in their last home game against Oakland. They've been really solid lately. The secondary is better than they've gotten credit for, which I think will play a role in Drew Lock regressing. But the major thing here is I just want to troll Steve with the weather and say that this storm will not only help this game go under, but help the Kansas City defense make plays and score at least 25 DraftKings points on this slate.
Well, I appreciate the troll job, but here's where the trolling really gets trolled, is that I actually was saying that the weather is a big concern in this game, because it legitimately is. This is where you actually start worrying about weather. Not like I said before, not because it's drizzling, not because it's 12-mile-per-hour winds and it might gust up to 13. That's where you actually start getting concerned about the weather with a game like this.
Wind is more bothersome than snow, they say.
Who says that?
They.
Okay.
You're the worst, Julian.
that just completely threw me for a loop. I don't disagree with the hot take. 25, fantasy points is a bit excessive, but they're going against shut up. They're going against a rookie quarterback who's probably going to be prone to making mistakes. This is only his third start. He's going up against a Kansas City secondary that has been very good. I mean, opposing receivers are only averaging about 125 yards per game, which is right in line with the Patriots and the 49ers. This is a secondary that does not get enough love, and I feel like they should be getting more. Now add the elements into the mix here. We got a whole different thing going on here. So I don't know what that was. Emerson, I think that was you.
That was definitely not me.
But there's a lot of things to factor into this game. So I think the Kansas City Chiefs defense is actually a pretty solid play. So with that, I would say this is actually a pretty cold take, because I actually agree with it, so it can't be that hot. Here's one that you're probably not going to agree with, is that Tyler Lockett is going to be the highest scoring wide receiver on this slate.
Oh, yeah, that's garbage.
Yeah, exactly. It's a hot take. This is what I like here. I think, obviously, Lockett has been hampered over the past few weeks. They say he was sick or whatever was going on here with injuries. They say he's back to full health. Take Pete Carroll's word with a grain of salt here, but they say he's fully back here. Now he's going up against Carolina. Seattle's projected to win in this game, and Carolina has struggled against opposing slot receivers over the past 4 weeks, allowing an average of 13.7 yards per reception. I think there is not a more perfect time to jump on Tyler Lockett, who literally is going to garner almost no ownership on this slate. He has repeatedly been a huge disappointment over the last few weeks here. So I think Tyler Lockett is in for a big game here, and with the potential that he has, could be the highest scoring one on the slate.
I respect the hotness of the take. It's also just hot garbage. There's so many places to pay for wide receiver on this slate. In the Tampa-Detroit game, in the Tennessee-Houston game, even like giant wide receivers on this slate. Miami seems to cure all when it comes.
Wind of like 30 miles an hour. Did you know that?
What's happening?
And with that Giants game, there's like winds going to be like 30 miles an hour. Did you know that?
All right, Darius Slayton, lock. On Tyler Lockett, his salary's up $500 in this matchup.
Okay.
He's scored less than 20 DraftKings points in his last 4 games combined. So I like the idea of a low-owned bounce-back spot. But whatever's been going on with him since he got that injury in San Francisco, stayed in the hospital there for like a bruise, came back and joined the team, and he's just been garbage since. I just think that Russell Wilson's starting to trust more his other wide receivers, DK Metcalf, and even so on down, Josh Gordon, Moore. I think that he's got a nice balance there and doesn't need Lockett to the degree that he did earlier in the season when that Seattle wide receiver core was such an issue, or so we thought. So will Lockett have a bounce-back game? He's got to be better than he's been, but there's no chance that he's going to be the highest scoring receiver on this slate.
Oh, that's too bad. Because I think it's going to happen.
It is too bad because you're wrong.
This is from the guy who said, Patrick Mahomes was going to throw for 600 yards and didn't even come close.
500.
Oh, well, sorry.
Almost.
Emerson,
I remember that.
Back to you,
everybody remembers all my hot takes because they're really hot.
Mine actually usually hit.
Yeah, it's true.
Today you went hotter than usual, and that's why it's not going to hit.
And you took the Reed route and didn't go that hot at all.
Oh,
sorry, Reed.
A little
we
bit
still love
hotter
you,
than Reed's trash takes.
Just reach out and grab him, Steve. You're close enough.
What are you talking about?
He's not even in the room.
All right, guys, this is no longer your segment. Please be quiet. Let's bring in Jeff Borwick and Greg Ehrenberg for their top fades of the day. Who are you fading in the 1 p.m. slate, Jeff?
Fade Devontae Parker. It's going to be windy in New York, just like Steve mentioned. And, you got Ryan Fitzpatrick, not exactly the biggest arm in the NFL here. The Giants, too. They've been getting after it a little bit on the pass rush. So I know Parker's coming in hot. He's got the new contract. He's cleared. It's a decent matchup, but I actually think Janoris Jenkins, the Giants cutting him, is a good thing for their defense. He hasn't exactly been performing well the entire year. So I'm going to fade Devontae Parker. I think he's too expensive. And, yeah, the weather is actually a big concern for the pass game there.
But he just got paid, Jeff.
That's usually when guys start taking time off.
Yeah, right?
They get the money and they're like, okay, I've got the easy life. But
Don't we all, though? Greg, 1 p.m. fade.
Yeah, so same game, different player. Patrick Laird, who he's become just this guy who's like a cult hero in DFS, really for no reason at all. He's not a particularly good fantasy player. He's averaging 2.7 yards per carry and might be like 20% owned today. The weather for offense is terrible in this game. The wind is going to be an issue. I guess Laird could have like a decent game because of PPR, but realistically, what's the ceiling for Laird? And given what his ownership's also going to be, I just think he's a really poor GPP.
Well, I mean, he's our Laird and savior, so his ceiling is infinity.
His ceiling, like infinity ceiling, it might actually be like 12 fantasy points. Like I think that might be a great result for him.
In all seriousness, I agree. Laird is terrible for fantasy.
Chap, 4 o'clock slate of games. Who do you want nothing of?
Yeah, Dalvin Cook. I mean, it's just, again, he's just a little bit too expensive, and the matchup isn't as good as it appears. I mean, the Chargers defense, yeah, maybe not for fantasy, they've been putting up points, but like their rushing defense has been a lot better since they've gotten back to full health. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in a long time. And look, the Vikings offense in outdoor games, not great, Bob. I mean, this is a team who just turns into puddles when they go outdoors. So I know it's the Chargers, not exactly like the greatest team in the world, but this is still a tougher matchup. Dalvin Cook at that price tag, you can go down to Fournette. You can even go down to Zeke. You can go down to Gurley at 6K. I just don't know why you want to pay almost 9K for Dalvin Cook. So I just feel like the matchup, the pricing, I'm out on Cook.
Greg, 4 o'clock slate of games. Your fade is who?
So I have Josh Jacobs here. I don't understand really why he's playing this week.
Yeah.
He's favored to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Maybe he's trying to pad stats a little bit here. But he has a broken shoulder. And during practice this week, there was an interview with reporters where they were asking, like, hey, are you going to be able to play this week? And he was saying, yeah, I should be fine. And then he struggled to put his shirt on. So this is a huge red flag for me. To me, like, if they get a decent lead in this game, like, I don't know how much are they really going to push Jacobs. They really want to push his workload. So to me, he's somebody who's fairly easy to fade, especially when there's so many good running back plays in that mid-range.
All right, cool. From fades to who you think people should play no matter what. Both of you have your Make It Rain picks available and ready to go right after Pat Mayo talks Week 15 ownership with us.
Looking at the overall ownership for the week on DraftKings, Sunday main slate only, the Millionaire Maker slate, the 4 highest projected owned running backs I have right now, Chris Carson, Christian McCaffrey, Patrick Laird, and Todd Gurley. Carson far and away above everyone else. It's the perfect matchup. No penny against the worst run defense in a game where you're favored, and it would take multiple fumbles for you to be out of this game. Game theory says you should probably avoid him and move on to Saquon Barkley, or potentially even a low-owned Josh Jacobs or Ezekiel Elliott around that same area. I don't have the guts to do that. I think Chris Carson's good this week, even at 30% ownership. I probably won't play him in every single one of my lineups, but cash games, 3 maxes, he's almost a lock button play here. Hopefully he can come through for us. C-McC and Laird and Gurley. If you really wanted to go like low owned, Boston Scott is the min, but you probably don't need to save that much salary. I do like Jacobs this week because no one's going to play him because of that injury. It doesn't seem like people are playing Zeke or Dalvin Cook either, so that is something to pay attention to. But if you play Jacobs, you get the low ownership on Jacobs in a fantastic matchup against Jacksonville. Or, since so few people actually utilize the late swap, you're going to have to give up a ton of salary if you do it, but that probably doesn't make a difference, that you can just easily go from Jacobs onto DeAndre Washington if he ends up inactive for this game, and you're going to get a low-owned DeAndre Washington, which is fantastic in this spot, even if you have to give up the $2,000 of salary cap. I would have him rated as very close to one of the top 10 players on this slate in terms of value anyway. So I'm okay with that decision, and that's something that I will try to be taking advantage of. That is a really nice leverage spot, in my opinion here. At receiver, Robert Woods, Julian Edelman, and the low-price Chris Conley, all shaping up to be the 3 highest projected owned wide receivers this week. It's YOLO week for me, so I'm going to be taking guys like Julio Jones against a decimated San Francisco secondary and a positive game script for the Atlanta passing game. If no one's going to own Julio and there's no Richard Sherman out there, it's a situation you might want to take advantage of. I know Julio doesn't score touchdowns, but eventually he will. Maybe it's next year, but maybe it's this week. We've seen him excel in this type of spot before, and if you get a low-owned Julio, it's usually the way to play it. Devontae Parker, too, because of this injury status. Again, that is something you're going to have to pay attention right down to the wire. when inactives come out. But if he is active, I really do like his prospects this week. And like I've been saying low week, if you're a low testosterone person, this play is not for you. But if you're high T, then you want big T, Terry McLaurin. He's going to see a ton of volume in this game against the Eagles. The Eagles secondary cannot match up with athletic receivers. Then you just have to pray that Dwayne Haskins can actually hit him on one of his 38 targets in this game. If it happens, it's going to happen big. So I like McLaurin as an absolute flyer. You're not playing him in cash games, but for tournaments, Terry McLaurin is a play, as is Christian Kirk against the Cleveland Browns. If you really want to go that route, I do like Christian Kirk a lot this week, and being lifted from the injury report only gives me more confidence, especially if Andy Isabella sits. Then a lot of these deep routes and even bubble screens might end up going towards Christian Kirk. So pay attention to that moving forward. At quarterback, there's only two projected over 10%. Tannehill at 20%, Deshaun Watson at 12%, both in the same game. If you want to go full out fade of that game, it's not recommended, but game theory wise, it would recommend doing that. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I like Matt Ryan as low owned guys. Far riskier, mind you, but the potential upside in those shootout type games versus these guys in what could be a running fest, to be perfectly honest with you. These guys usually do end up getting there, but if it's just a down week from them, then all of a sudden you box out a lot of the field. At tight end, Higbee, Ertz, O.J. Howard, and Ian Thomas. Higbee projected around 20, the other guys around 10. I would expect that Ian Thomas ownership to go up now with the news that Greg Olsen is not going to play. However, he's so cheap you probably have to pay for him anyway. At 3,100, he makes so many lineups work that I'm okay with it. I do like Mike Gesicki as a cheaper end guy, especially against the Giants too, who struggle against tight ends. As a low, cheaper end option, he's $4,000. You can pair him with Parker and Fitzpatrick if you did want to do a triple stack, or Laird potentially because he works so well in the passing game. Bring it back with Saquon Barkley, and then you have a mini game stack in that spot. It's like if you play Ian Thomas, that is a great avenue to play Chris Carson as well. One feeds into the other. Both going both ways in that game. If it's higher scoring, both should be involved in putting up points and adding to the over in that total. At the higher end, it's Kittle. You roll with Kittle if you want to. If you have the money for it, he's clearly the best play. Him or Kelsey, I do prefer Kittle. But if you can't afford them, Gesicki and Ian Thomas would be my two preferred options at tight end this week on the lower end of the spectrum. Then at defense, the Lions D against a banged-up Jameis. Can't fault anyone for it, but it looks like it's a 20% defense because they're cheap. I'll probably pass on that. KC is the second highest projected own. I'm still okay with that. I would eat the chalkier defense. At the middle tier, lower end, I do like the Skins against Philly. Their defense has been pretty good so far. Arizona's defense on the very low end against the Browns at home. Riskier, but potential upside coming with that. The sneaky thing is, because no one is going to own them and they haven't been on the main slate for a while, if you can find the money, Patriots D against the Bengals. I know they're expensive. I know they're $4,000, but they've been like the best fantasy player this year, and they're kind of out of sight, out of mind right now, and no one is apparently using them. So Patriots D, for me, is a place you want to go if you can afford the money this week.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Sweat, where it is time to make it rain. I won't be doing that, but DraftKings contributors Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, Julian Edlow, and Greg Ehrenberg, they certainly will. So this is when you guys give us your DFS play that'll absolutely make it rain cash for everyone watching at home. First up, Julian, have at it.
Yeah, so I'm going with Chris Carson here for $7,500. Is he going to be a chalky play? A little bit, but you know who I think is going to be more chalky? Saquon Barkley, and I don't get why Carson is not considered the better play. You've got Rashad Penny out. He obviously got injured early last game, and Chris Carson only found his way to 15 touches, but that was with Seattle playing from behind the entire time against the Rams. Prior to that, Carson was still getting his touches, but Penny had 33 total touches in those two previous games. Now pretty much all that work is going to go to Chris Carson here. So I can see him getting in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 touches in this game against a Panthers defense that allows the most DraftKings points to the running back position this season, mostly in part thanks to 24 rushing touchdowns against them. I just don't see how Carson, as 6-point road favorites here, doesn't find his way into the end zone at least once, maybe a couple of times, get 20 carries, get some work in the receiving game, get 3, 4, 5 catches, and I think he can definitely find his way to 30-plus DraftKings points in this game, whereas Saquon Barkley is going to be a good chalky play too against Miami, but we just don't have that certainty with him at all.
It seems like Godwin's locked to put up some points, but anyone here concerned about the chalkiness?
No, I mean, this is good chalk too. Oh, okay, go ahead, Jeff.
I think Steve was onto something. Go with Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett. Everyone's playing Carson. This is a fantastic matchup for Lockett in the slot. I'd much rather get leverage going with that big pass stack than roster Carson. There's other guys you can go do at the lower end.
Yeah, I mean, the thing you don't worry about, though, with Carson is that they're not going to hand the ball off to C.J. Prosise a lot like they did with Rashad Penny. And no one else is in that backfield. So even if this guy fumbles 2 or 3 times, he's still going to get at least 30
Let's hope he
attempts.
doesn't do that.
Right? Like, he does do that. But, look, how many plays do we think that this game is actually going to have total, right? I mean, or even just from the Seattle side, you can't think that Russell Wilson's going to pass a ton. I do like the contrarian stack of what Steve was mentioning with Tyler Lockett. But even then, I mean, his floor is like 18 to 20 touches, and we've seen what he's done with that.
Reed, while we're here and talking running backs, go ahead. Hit us with your make-it-rain selection.
Uncle Leo, Leonard Fournette.
Uncle Leo.
Uncle Leo. He's right in between those two guys, Saquon Barkley and Chris Carson. So if you want to shift off of that, like this guy always gets talked about in terms of having really good matchups and just the production and the volume to be there. DJ Chark, Jeff's boy, again, a good one actually, is going to be out of this game. So that safe floor of the targets that Leonard Fournette's going to get actually increases. And against an Oakland team, while I love my Raiders, they ain't so good on defense. Even if they're down, like even if the Jaguars are down, which they will be in this game, Leonard Fournette is going to get a ton of those carries. He's a perfect pivot play off of those two guys that Julian just mentioned.
Julian, the look on your face when you're off camera as he's explaining about Uncle Leo being his make-it-rain pick, you seem very excited into this.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that I was doing anything with my face, but I do think that Fournette's a fine play. I mean, I like all the guys in this price range, really. And, like, am I wrong? How do you guys feel? Like, isn't Saquon Barkley going to be the most popular guy out of even these 3 if we include Fournette and Carson? And I like Fournette and Carson better than Barkley, I would say.
Barkley, too, he admitted that he's not extremely healthy after that high ankle sprain. I mean, he came back after 2 weeks. Like, the freak of nature is not supposed to come back for like 2 months, and he came back in 2 weeks and finally admitted that he's not at full strength.
Greg, you looked confused there for a second. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I was muted, but it looks like I was unmuted because I muted myself. This was user error.
Well, now that we can hear your voice, yes, feel free to react to any of these make-it-rain selections.
So I think that Carson and Barkley are both going to be massively popular. I think that them and Godwin are probably going to be the 3 highest owned plays on the slate. So while I think all of them are fine plays, like that's just something to consider. That if you play all 3 of them, you're going to just have the same lineup as pretty much everybody else. So I do like Fournette a lot in this spot. Overall, I think this is a really good spot for the Jaguars going up against a terrible Raiders defense. The game script is really in favor for the passing game. There's really cheap options there with Chris Conley and D.J. Westbrook, who we talked about earlier. Leonard Fournette's on the field for basically every play. He's involved in the run game. He's involved in the pass game. Like, I think there's a lot of merit to running out just heavy Jaguar stacks today.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did in my showdown, man. It is a record-breaking stack. Jules, please shut up.
Well,
I see you looking
if you're
at me.
playing a one-game slate, then yes, there's definitely merit to stack.
Oh, yeah.
There's no context.
Emerson bragging about his stack on a showdown slate is classic Emerson.
Be quiet, Julian.
Yeah.
Greg, who is your make-it-rain pick?
So I went with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. There's just nobody else to throw the ball to in the Eagles' offense. Like he's nearly min price. I don't really think people are going to be on him. He's going to be the Eagles' #1 receiver today. We have Alshon Jeffrey's out. Nelson Aguilar's out. Deshaun Jackson's been out basically the entire season. It's a really positive matchup against the Redskins. He's somebody who, unlike everybody else who's been recommended so far, is a value play that nobody else is going to be playing. And it just is a good way to differentiate your lineups. And then you can really pay up at the running back slots if you're going this cheaper receiver.
Okay. Anyone like to react to this? Because he must be the only receiver there on the Eagles roster right now.
It's him and Greg Ward, so I think both of them are viable plays because Philly's trending towards a touchdown favorite against a Washington team that just isn't great. They've improved on defense in recent weeks. They've covered 3 games in a row, I think. So, you know, I'm not that confident that Philly's going to win this game by a touchdown or more, but they've got to, you know, Ertz, we said we like Ertz for over 5.5 catches on the SNY show, but the ball has to go to some receivers. So I think that both of the healthy ones have to be viable options for pretty much no salary.
Wait, Julian, what do you think about the Eagles? I think you share the same sentiment like the Chargers. That
and the Eagles suck.
Yeah, we go. The Eagles suck. There he is.
So do the Redskins. So does
True.
They do.
I
didn't say anything about Washington. I just said the Eagles suck.
Ward got 9 targets last game, and a few of those came back. Right? He caught a touchdown, I believe, too. They got called back, and so what you don't see in the box score is a lot higher.
Real smart of you, Reed.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Got to use the old noodle. And so, look, it's hit or miss with these Eagles receivers because you don't know. And it's Carson Wentz. I mean, Carson Wentz has been garbage. So he's good. He's a good GPP play.
I'm gonna say Justin Watson at 3,700 outscores Whiteside. I just feel like there's more upside with Watson going up against the Lions and in a pass-heavy offense. I just don't know how much passing there's going to be in this game with Washington and Philly. Obviously, the price, if he finds the end zone, I mean, Greg's going to hit it and get like 5x, but I feel like Watson, better chance at like a 25-point game.
Jeff, who's your make it rain pick?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, we're on me now.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley, 6K. I just feel like people are just way overthinking this. This is a player who's gotten over 20 touches in 3 of his last 4 games. The game he didn't was the blowout against Baltimore. I mean, LA has completely changed their offense to go heavy on Todd Gurley again. And the only reason he's 6K is because he hasn't quite hit the 100-yard bonus in 3 of those games. But he's hit over 90 yards. I mean, if he hits it in those games, his average is bigger. He's probably more expensive today. This is a fantastic matchup. The Dallas Cowboys have been allowing touchdowns to running backs left and right at home. Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook ate them up. It's a big game. For 6K, I'm really shocked that he's not the highest percentage projected on the slate. He's going to be lower owned than guys like Carson, Saquon we already talked about. I think Todd Gurley's going to have a big sort of throwback to last year's game. 6K way too cheap.
Okay, as I look at some questions here on YouTube, like Reed, would you go Julio Jones or Todd Gurley then?
Oh, that one's tough. I mean, no Calvin Ridley. You think that he's going to get a bulk of those carries. I don't think that he gets as much, but he's extremely cheap for what he can do. I'd probably go Julio, but I really like Todd Gurley in that matchup as well.
Okay, Julian, Winston or Mahomes? This gentleman says this is a serious question.
Yeah, I'll give you a serious answer. I would go with Winston, who feels like he's playing with house money on the road in Detroit, bad pass defense. Even without Mike Evans, I just don't want that much of a part of Mahomes in this snowstorm against the Denver defense.
There is video of Winston with like some weird glove or brace that he has on his hand. If that means
he's going to throw a couple of interceptions. But
is
not
that
going to
from
be able
him?
to eat the W today either, guys. So
there you
something to
go.
consider.
Would anyone actually take Baker Mayfield over Jameis Winston today? That's a question.
I wouldn't.
No.
I would not.
Good.
No.
We have a very smart panel on. I agree with that, guys. Don't worry.
Well, you agreeing doesn't necessarily.
Oh,
mean
so
anything,
if I
but
agree, does that mean you're wrong?
Potentially, very, very well could.
Well, that
True.
sucks
Fade
to be
Emerson.
you, Julian. Sanders or Odell, PPR flex? Go ahead, Greg.
Sanders.
It's just so hard to trust Odell Beckham at this point in the season. Like, it doesn't really matter what the matchup is, who he plays. He's got the hernia thing. It's always something with Odell Beckham, and that's kind of been the case the last couple of seasons. There's just such a low floor for him. So especially for seasonal leagues where it's head-to-head in this part of the season, go with Sanders, the safer play.
Well, it's Jarvis in that offense, too. I mean, he's seeing a ton of targets, so go Jarvis.
Devontae Adams or A.J. Brown, Reed?
Ooh, that one's tough. I think you go GPPs. I think Devontae Adams is a nice play, but that secondary in Chicago is strong. So, although I don't like it, I would go A.J. Brown.
I like A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
Julian, Adam
Yes.
McNally wants to know, how do you get a job like this?
You spew out a bunch of garbage, pretend you know fantasy football and gambling, and then you can be just like me.
Yeah, you get a
Actually,
whiteboard
Julian,
like Jeff.
that's about the answer I sent. I sent him back. I said, send a resume tape of you making stuff up, but being very confident in the words you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Say that a lot of teams suck, call other people idiots.
Yeah.
All right, Greg, I trust what you have to say. Let's go back to you. D.D. Westbrook or
Nice.
Darius Slayton in season long?
Oh, this has got to be Westbrook for me. He's going to be seeing extra looks with Chark out. And the other thing to consider also just the weather is so bad for that game in New York. And we know that Eli Manning, his arm strength was washed like 6 years ago. Now we're going to throw him into a high wind game. Like, it's really hard to see the Giants offense doing much downfield in this spot.
We haven't asked Jeff the question yet. Tom Brady or Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jeff?
Nick Foles.
All right, Jeff, seriously, though, value running back here, Laird or Lindsey?
I'd go with Lindsey. There's just no upside with Patrick Laird. I don't know why people are flocking to him. I mean, I get the PPR thing, but I mean, look, Miami can't run the ball. Lindsey has a far better chance of going for a big ceiling game. I'd take Lindsey.
Jeff, one more for you. Isaiah asks, Winston, Godwin, and O.J. Howard stack, is that stupid?
No, I don't think it's stupid. I mean, look, teams, even David Blau is going to be able to put up some points against Tampa. And by the way, like Danny Amendola, Galladay, those guys are kind of in play too for real, high variance GPP. But no, a Tampa stack definitely in play. O.J. Howard is actually seeing consistent targets. He could be the downfield option today with Mike Evans, so definitely like that.
Julian is already tuned out.
Last one here, I know he is.
I'm editing some lineups.
Greg, very quickly, Lockett or Thielen? We have 15 seconds.
Lockett.
All right, thank you for being very quick. I appreciate it. That is a show. What a show. Thank you to all our analysts who know everything and do such a great job. And thank you guys for watching.